Today I've got a very special treat for everybody. I've come to the ZT Classic Car Museum here in Zhongshan. It's actually just a couple blocks from my studio. I can walk here, and not many people know that Zhongshan is filled with beautiful classics such as this. And I'm gonna get exclusive access to all of it. Now, I'm not gonna show you everything in this video because I want you to come here and see it for yourself, but I will be showing you inside some of the rarest vehicles in the entire country of China. So this museum is not just a museum about cars like this 1918 Packard in almost perfect condition, but it's really a museum of history. It's as if the last 100 years have just spit out into all the displays here, and they've got historical artifacts for everything you can think of, not just automobiles. If you're a car nut like me, you're gonna love this place. But even if you're just a fan of history, you can spend hours here and not see everything. Boy, I have to say, this 1918 Packard really brings back a lot of memories. This is a true story. I grew up in Irvine, California, not far from Disneyland. And down the street was a retired gentleman who had a bunch of these. And he would take the high schoolers out to prom and chauffeur them around in something like this. Right this way. Just think of the elegance behind this, you know? Suicide rear doors, this beautiful wood, climb in. Whoa! It is like the ultimate limousine in here. Now this is a real treat for me to be able to sit back here, reminisce about those days when I was a teenager. Hell, I was younger than a teenager. I was middle school, can't remember his name, but all he did was work on his cars in his garage and put them out for display. I mean, it gave the neighborhood this classy feel. I think people who own cars like these and take care of them and make them last forever, these people should be applauded. I mean, the little details that you see in each of these cars, like these hood ornaments, you know? We rarely see hood ornaments like that. And look at this, a side mirror that is mounted on the spare tire. How cool. This is like old Hollywood back in here, right? So not only do they have the vintage cars, but they've got vintage cameras everywhere. Look at this old camera. Wow. And I really like what they've done. They obviously have a car here that they bought and it's not in pristine condition, but all the pieces are here. And what they've done is they created like a garage scene. And of course, all the pieces that you would find in a garage. This is Andy Wong. He's a curator of this museum, and he's been kind enough to kind of show us around a couple of these really, really complicated cars. But before that, Andy, could you tell me a little bit more about the museum?
So my family and I have been collecting cars for many years. So we choose our hometown, Zhongshan, to build this museum, you know, to showcase our collections to Zhongshan's people and the people around China.
And when did you open this museum?
Last year.
Last year?
October last year.
How long did it take you to collect all of, because it's not just cars, you got all kinds of collectibles in here.
Yeah, we have antiques from all around the world, you know, from the US, from UK, Germany, Japan, here in China too. Took almost 30 years.
30 years to
collect.
collect.
Cars and antiques.
Amazing, amazing. And to set all of this up, I mean, this is a first-class museum. I mean, it's not just the cars on display, but also the displays themselves are works of art. But one thing I really wanted you to show me is this one right here. This is the Ford Model T, 1916. Look at this thing.
This is so-called sporty version of Model T. So this is like a normal version. This is a sporty version. And then the interesting thing is the way to operate, to drive this car. So in a modern car, this should be the gas, right?
Right.
But in this car, this is the brake.
Oh my God, that's so confusing, man.
And then this is a reverse.
So you have the brake on the right, reverse in the middle.
Right. And this is the first gear and second gear. So if you hit the, this is the first gear, and this is second gear, and this is a handbrake.
That's the handbrake. Okay.
And then you may ask, where's the gas?
Yeah, where is the gas?
Right here.
So that's the accelerator.
Accelerator.
Okay.
So totally different.
I mean, here at this museum, he's got Look at this, an old accordion. Even got like these old cymbals from like marching band cymbals. Old cameras. And great stuff. Here they don't just have one, they have two. Now this is true, these cars weigh about 3 tons. That's no joke. These things are quite the tank. What surprised me is, y'all know Jay Leno, right? Jay Leno from Jay Leno's Garage, the ultimate car guy, right? He did a video, I think in like 2016, 2017, where he toured one of these. He admitted that at that time, he had never even heard of Hongqi. I mean, he's the guy who's heard of every single car, and practically driven every car on the face of the earth. He had never even heard of a Hongqi, and that was just a few years ago. Now, of course, Hongqi makes very modern cars, very luxurious cars. They have the HS9 electric SUV, which is a fantastic car. They also make smaller models and everything for the everyday. They're not cheap cars. These are very expensive. Not many people get to step inside a Hongqi like this. They didn't make very many of them. It's got a very... Wow, this thing is big. Not sure, I guess these are to grab handles maybe? There's actually air conditioning back here. Pretty comfortable back here, you know? But the real cool part are these jumper seats. And they say these jumper seats are for security. And there's like a little hand bar for them there. There's a red wood, very common. There's a very distinct smell in here. And the smell is that of like old wood, like an old house that has been smoked. I get this same kind of smell, and it reminds me of very, very old hotels. It's not a bad smell, it's just a very distinct smell. All right, I'm gonna try and sit in one of these things. Oh, okay. There's a little spot for your feet down there. So it actually goes underneath, and you know, it's not so bad. It's I'm climbing into this. It's a little tight, but once you sit here, you know, it's not so bad. Of course, Hongqi meaning red flag. What an incredibly beautiful old car. Everything in here is like a tank. Crank windows. But they had these vented windows here, and you get a little air in, so you can still smoke your cigarette. What an incredible looking interior. These cars back in these days were all based on the old Imperials from the 1960s. And later models went on to be based on the Audi 100 and even the Lincoln Town Car. In fact, some of the really, really old models have an old Ford engine in these things. And yes, all of these cars still run. There's this 1990s sexiness written all over it. Ticket me red. Aftermarket wheels. Wow. It's even got a California plate on it. Look at that. Oh yeah. These old Camaros and Firebirds, they were a dream car of mine when I was in high school. Especially the Camaro. The Firebird was awesome too. I would have taken either one, especially a V8 Trans Am or a V8 Z28. Very plasticky, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, just sitting in here and smelling it reminds me the hood is so long you can't see in front of you. This one only has 74,000 miles on it. Now, obviously, it could use some work. It could use a new stereo in here. I mean, it being a little rattly like this, that's par for the course for a 90s GM product, right? I mean, who didn't see a ton of these back home. How many of you went to prom, you know? I would see a lot of these at like these old town car limousines and town cars. I would see a lot of them at like LAX when I drove a super shuttle. You know, these things had a ton of miles on them. And this one, you can tell this one's been through the wars a little bit. But yeah, these were great cars. My father had an early 90s Lincoln Continental, and he had it for a long, long time. These town cars are ubiquitous. You almost never see them here in China. To see one, especially a limousine here in mainland China, is pretty rare. Here you would have a television mounted there. I remember a lot of the televisions were mounted over here next to the bar. Who didn't just dream when they were a kid of spending time in a limousine, right? This would all like light up really, really beautifully. Have all the controls here for, well, there's no sunroof in this one. It's a pretty simple one, but still stretched limousines. They were really cool, still are really cool. So check this out. This is a real Mini Cooper that has been cut and divided into a little sitting area. Oh, how cool is that? They did the same thing over here with an Infiniti Q45. Look at that. Yes, who doesn't love Street Fighter 2, right? Now, of course, there were many iterations of the BJ, you know, China's version of the Jeep. Over here, you got the Beijing BJ 212. Of course, they've put all the all the weapons on it and whatnot, but wow, I love the BJ 212, the newer one, the BJ 40, the BJ 40. Well, that's got some weight to it, man. This one here is an amphibious one. Even got some bikes. Look at this. Just in the back corner. Yes. Look at this. Now that is freaking cool. And I even love the bathrooms. I mean, you got this with the sinks and everything. And while you're waiting for your girlfriend, you can just sit here and hang out in these old chairs. So cool. Now here we have an old Willys Jeep. Now if you look closely though, you can see it says Ford right there. And that's because back in these days, you know, Willys couldn't make all the Jeeps. So they actually had Ford producing some of these as well. Great display. The ultimate Woody. Imagine driving this down to Doheny State Beach in Dana Point. That would be awesome. He's got all kinds of stuff here, man. I mean, he's got a section here of old sewing machines and irons. He's got a section here, looks like of an old flute. Oh my God. You know, and these are just some old oil cans, like, you know, some old oil cans and some tools that you would use to work on these cars. He's got old lamps, old bicycles are everywhere. I think this is one of my favorite sections in the whole museum. I mean, these is a 1901 Ford, 1904 Oldsmobile. These are not original, these are replicas, but they were made by Ford and Oldsmobile. So you can actually get a sense of what it was like back well over 120 years ago. Now, two really cool cars that they have here are the Porsche 914 and the Porsche 944. In the 1980s, the Porsche 944 was, you know, considered, you know, the affordable Porsche. Oh yeah, I love the smell of old cars. I mean, this 944 smells like history. But before that, you had the 914, and I remember seeing these on the road, and when I was a teenager, I really wanted one. I just thought that first of all, they were very cheap, but I thought they were a lot of fun to drive too. Oh. Yeah, getting into a 914 You are very low to the ground, but there's something exciting about being so low. Of course, 914 was developed with Volkswagen. Now, what they've done with this one here at the museum is that they've actually turned it into a video game. They have a PlayStation steering wheel and a PlayStation stick and a Logitech pedals down at the bottom here and a giant screen. You can play Gran Turismo in your Porsche 914. I mean, everything about this car I absolutely love. Just the sound of the doors when you close them, it just sounds like a Porsche.